Welcome to the Alabama Child Health Improvement Alliance, otherwise known as ACHIA's ABCs of Quality Improvement. For this session, you might need a few materials so you can do some activities during the presentation. Those include exam table paper, Post-it notes in two different colors, markers that suit your preference, and pen and paper. So in order to learn QI today, we're going to review a scenario about Dr. Jones's ABC pediatric practice. She noticed that there seemed to be an increase in ER visits for her patients with asthma. So she reviewed documented asthma action plans given to her patients in the last week. She found that only 3 of 30 patients with the diagnosis of asthma had documentation of receiving action plans. So she decided to work on consistency of giving asthma action plans to patients. So we're now at our first letter of our ABCs of quality improvement. A, that is our aim. So as I read these aim statements, you decide which of the following is the best aim statement, and then we'll discuss them more thoroughly. A, increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma soon. Or B, increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma seen by Dr. Jones by 10% in 1 month. C, increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma by 10%. Or D, increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma in 1 month. Let's look at these individually after I give you the answer, which is B, increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma seen by Dr. Jones by 10% in 1 month. Let's quickly review what makes a great aim statement. That means that it should be a SMART aim statement, which means it should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So thinking about those different elements of an aim statement, let's look at this aim statement. Increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma soon. There are a few things we could do to improve this one. We could add improvement in the number of action plans given, and we could add a time limit for improvement. The next aim statement that we had as an example was to increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma by 10%. The way we could improve this is to add a time limit. The next action plan that we looked at was to increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma in 1 month. This one could be improved for the number of action plans given. And finally, let's look at the one that was the best choice that we had. That's to increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma seen by Dr. Jones by 10% in 1 month. Even this one could be improved because we could add improvement in the number of action plans given from baseline data to goal. For example, 10% of patients to 20% of patients in 1 month. It could also be improved by including a long-term goal. So, if we perfect this one a little bit, it might read better in this form. Increase the number of action plans given to patients with asthma seen by Dr. Jones from 10% to 40% in 6 months. So we've reviewed A, which is aim, and now we're moving to B, which is background. A great way to look at the background for your practice is to look at your workflow. This example is from Charles Henderson's clinic, and they actually looked at their clinic flow. They've done this beautifully. They have the correct shapes as taught by various QI methodologies. However, what I've found is that it's much easier to just take that table paper that we mentioned earlier, 2 different color Post-it notes and some markers, and in 1 color Post-it note, on this particular example, the color is blue. You can write down your process for clinic visits, for asthma action plans, for immunizations, for developmental screening, or whatever process you're wanting to improve. You write on 1 step per process on each Post-it note. As you do that, you will think of change ideas, and you can write 1 idea for change per Post-it note. In the second color, on this example, it's pink. So this practice has shown their process for HPV immunization and then their change ideas in pink. And that's a great way to do this. And you can take some time now to work through the process that you want to improve and write your change ideas. Which brings us to C, which is change. Which change idea is directly related to Dr. Jones' aim? Is it to check MDI technique, to give every patient with asthma an action plan, to assess patients' asthma symptoms at every visit? Well, obviously, it's to give every patient with asthma an action plan. That was a pretty easy question. So, since it is to give every patient with asthma an action plan, let's look at our second C, which is a cycle. We should do quick cycles of change, which include just a few patients at a time. And this particular PDSA, Plan, Do, Study Act, is from ACHIA. So when you're thinking about a Plan, Do, Study Act, you should spend a lot of time on the plan. You should obviously look at your objective, your aim for improvement. Ask yourselves questions and make some predictions. What's going to happen and why is that going to happen? And then really get specific about how do you carry out the cycle. Who is going to do what, where, and when. That's not the end, however. As you carry out this plan, you need to really document what's going on. Your experience, your problems. You should also collect data about what's going on. Then you should study what's happening. Complete an analysis of what happened while you were doing your plan. Compare that to predictions. Ask yourself, what did you learn? What conclusions can you draw from this test? The questions that I really like to ask my own team when we're doing a PDSA is, what went well? What didn't go well? What really surprised us? And what can we do better next time? That will lead you to A, or ACT, which is another way of saying we're just planning our second PDSA. What kind of refinements or modifications need to be made, and what's our next cycle? This actually shows an example of a team as they've written out their entire Plan, Do, Study Act. Their plan include that they would have a daily huddle. They would identify all of Dr. Jones's patients who had asthma. They would select 3 for action plans. Olivia, again, note, this is very specific. Olivia will place the action plan on 3 charts, or if we're at an office where we have an EMR, we'd flag the patients. Note that they've been so specific that they've told us exactly where the action plan is going to be stored, in wall storage beside the charts. Third, Angela will review the action plan with patients. Fourth, Dr. Jones will complete the chart. And fifth, Marie will collect data for EQUIP. So don't forget your data collection as you make a plan for improvement. As they did their PDSA, here's what they found. The action plan was difficult to manage on their paper chart. The day was busy and a flag was ignored on the EMR on the last patient, and that patient's visit was lengthened. So they began to ask themselves some questions to study their P and D. What went well? Well, the team huddle was great. It identified all the patients, and the action plan was easy to use. What didn't go well? Well, the action plan got lost in the shuffle of papers, and a flag was ignored. What were the surprises? It was a busy day, and they really didn't expect to forget any patients. So here's how they decided to run their next cycle of change. They were going to continue the huddle. They were going to adapt the paper visit form so the action plan was included as the last page of their practice paper visit form. And Dr. Jones was going to stay up and do that very night. They were also going to place a reminder poster in triage to watch for flags, and they were going to try again the next day. You can tell that as you do your first PDSA, you're actually planning for your second PDSA. So you can start planning an improvement ramp, which includes several PDSAs in succession. So here's just an example of a couple. First of all, adapt an action plan, then use the action plan for 3 of a single doctor's patients. Then use the action plan for all of that doctor's patients. And finally, think about using the action plan for 3 patients on all of the other providers in that practice. So we've covered C for cycle. So which of the following is the plan for a PDSA for Dr. Jones's idea? The LPN is going to identify 3 of Dr. Jones's patients today. Or today we lost a reminder for an action plan. C, we didn't expect to lose a reminder. Or D, place the large reminder in triage. I've kind of cheated on this question, and you can see that A, B, C, D are also in the same order as PDSA. So that the answer is the LPN is to identify 3 of Dr. Jones' patients today is the plan or part of the plan for a PDSA for Dr. Jones's idea. Now, when we make that plan, if the LPN to identify 3 of Dr. Jones's patients today, we need to make sure that we are including who, the LPN, what, identifying 3 patients, where, we didn't really include that, but we're going to assume that's in the office, and then we also want to know when, which is today. So we've covered A, B, C, aim, background, and change and cycles, and now we're going to look at D, which is data. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to need a data measurement plan. This will also need PDSA cycles. You're going to really need to know who's going to do what, where, and when. So first, who's going to collect the data? Who's going to create or adapt the form for data collection? Who is going to enter the data? And who is going to review and share the data? What form are you going to use for data collection? What platform or software will be used for data entry? What kind of reminders are you going to need to remind people to collect? And what's going to be displayed? Where's the data collection tool going to be stored? Where will the data collection tool be placed until data is entered? Where will reminders for data collection be placed? And where will data be displayed? Finally, when? I bet you didn't realize there were so many questions about data. When will data be collected? Will it be immediately, weekly, or monthly? When will data be entered? Immediately, weekly, or monthly? And when will data be displayed? Monthly, quarterly, or annually? This moves us on to expand. It's a good idea to tell everybody about what you are doing. So organize your work into a story. For those individuals who may be above you, create a 2-minute elevator speech for them. And you may not just see them in the elevator, but even if it's just in the hallway, spend those 2 minutes talking about how you're improving. Make a display for members of your practice and for your patients. Make presentations for your patients, for local groups, for your state chapter of the AAP, for national conferences. And think about publications for local newspapers, for the AAP, and for professional journals. Help others who are interested in quality improvement. These may include your practice members. It may include patients because, yes, goals and PDSA cycles are a great way for organizing parenting and home care. And patients may have some tools that they can provide help with. Think about the state chapter of the AAP and finding ways to help there. And only your imagination is the limit, so think beyond the state. Finally, we're going to talk about F for forever. On the right side are some characteristics of reliable systems. On the left side are 3 reliability levels. I want you to take just a moment and think about how those 2 match up. Which characteristic has a reliability level of 1, 2, and 3? We're going to quickly review these levels now. Because one way to sustain your improvements is to increase the reliability of your process. So level 1 characteristics include standardization, making the process the same for everyone, education and awareness, feedback regarding compliance to the new process, and memory aids. Level 2 reliability include real-time identification of failures. Oh, this didn't work, let's stop and change it now. And you might be surprised to find that electronic decision support is only level 2. Another way that provides level 2 reliability is redundancy. Have multiple areas where you can catch errors in your system. Level 3 reliability is much harder to describe. It includes a change in culture where you have habits and patterns that allow you to make change quickly, so that your system is visible to everyone and you have clear communication throughout your practice. And finally, mindfulness. I want to talk just a little bit more about mindfulness. This list comes from Weick from 1999. A practice or a system that is mindful is preoccupied with failure. It doesn't mean they don't celebrate success, but they allow everyone to be able to say, stop, this is not working well for my part of the process. They're reluctant to simplify interpretations and say that an uptick, this is just an example, an uptick in data, improving in the number of action plans given was related to our intervention when it's only been 1 month of data. They're also very sensitive to operations. Again, anyone in the system, the patient, the front staff, they can all say this part of the process is not working for me. They're very committed to resilience. How can we change quickly? And finally, they have a deference to expertise. That does not mean a deference to education, but really they pay attention to who is the expertise for each process of their improvement change. So, this may surprise you, but reliability level 1, those characteristics were memory jogs and hard work. Reliability level 2 were electronic defaults. And reliability level 3 was a culture of improvement. So, we've reviewed the ABCs of QI. A for aim, B for background, C for change and cycle, D for data, E for expand, and F for forever. As we did this, you not only learned the ABCs of QI, but you learned a model of quality improvement called the Model for Improvement that was developed by ACHIA. This is a very simple and elegant model that includes only 3 questions and a cycle. The questions are, what are we trying to accomplish? That is our aim. How will we know that a change is an improvement? That is our data. And thirdly, what change can we make that will result in improvement? That is our change idea. And we reviewed the PDSA cycle, Plan, Do, Study, Act, in detail. The 3 questions and a cycle. So, now you know your ABCs, next you can improve with me. Go out and improve your practice. Thank you.